So when your home is not new, or the home you're working on is not new, you may think that green and sustainable options are limited. Not so. Each step you take can add comfort, help, and value to this home. Matter of fact, this is a lot of what I talk about in my book. But seriously, I wrote this to help people see how you can do things a little different. Make those simple choices that help you to live better in your home or help you to create a home to live better in for your clients. The same concept. It's just a matter of who's doing it, the homeowner or the home professional or the home developer. So while you may only have a do-it-yourself project or a minor replacement or an upgrade, you can still use the guiding principles of green certifications. Find on different places on my website, in my book, or call or email, and we'll help you find it. These will help you to make buying decisions. These are the simple choices for a better home. It's these buying decisions. So you're going to see over and over again, improvements in one area of the home will affect other areas too. For example, new double pane windows will increase your comfort inside the home, improve the appearance and the resale of the home as well, and lower your heating and AC bills. Win, win, win. Love it. Your home is a system of systems, just like your body, and they all work together. So this whole process of doing things as you maintain, upgrade, replace, and repair is what I call incremental green. Hi, y'all. I'm Marla, the Green Home Coach, and I appreciate you joining me here on the Everyday Green Home Podcast. And today I'm going to bring back an episode out of the archives that I really feel is so instrumental to helping to lay the foundation about this whole concept of incremental green. And this is one of the key parts of my work and my teaching, is to help people see that they can get started. That you just have to get going, and give you some ideas about how to do that and what some of those things are that you can do while you're doing this. So the concept of incremental green is that you are caring for, maintaining, and upgrading your home as you're doing those things. You're thinking about the next step that you need to take to up level whatever you're doing and make your home greener. By doing that, you will be providing an enhanced experience for everyone living in the home by making it healthier, safer, and or more comfortable. So, for example, if it's time to paint your house, instead of going straight for the paint you usually buy, first check to see that it's a no VOC. That stands for volatile organic compounds, and that's some of the toxic stuff that off gases into our house. So see that it's a no VOC, or at least a low VOC paint. There's a super easy green label that you can look to see if it really complies, and that's Green Guard or Green Guard Gold. And then you know that you're taking a step just by upgrading your home with a fresh coat of paint. You're taking a step to make it healthier. Or if you're replacing a thermostat, instead of buying the cheapest one that you can find, maybe invest in an Ecobee or a Nest. And yes, those are brand names, but these are learning thermostats. So they're going to cost you a little bit more upfront. Oh my gosh, but they are going to save you money and frustration because you don't have to program them in the long run. So over the next 10 years, it's really going to be a good investment. So greening your home incrementally is really thinking about this, really kind of like doing a product swap as you maintain, repair, and upgrade your home. So I want you to listen for two things in the upcoming podcast with Tony, my co-host and friend, and so much fun to do these with Tony. So I want you to listen in for number one is the 5 different categories of things you can do in your home. And these 5 categories are really built around the Green Home certification process, because these categories offer you the ways, the processes, and the materials that you can do things in your own home as you are upgrading, maintaining, and replacing. So listen for those 5 categories. And the second thing I want you to listen for is my top 3 tips for what I do. And when anybody asks me, what are your top things to do? These are them. And they're really pretty easy to get started with. So listen in, love your feedback, and let me know what you think. Have a good one.
Living green or sustainably is about more than saving on your electric bill and doing your part to protect natural resources. It is about a safer and healthier life for you and your family without sacrificing style, quality, or budget. This is a movement to provide all of us with clean air to breathe and water to drink, safe, healthy food to eat, and places to live, and energy to run the places where we live, learn, work, and play. Join your hosts, Marla Esser-Close, the Green Home Coach, and Tony Pratte of the Sound Room to learn how everyday green homes work for you, your family, and your community.
Reusing stuff has become really in vogue again, and there are a lot of reasons for it: to be frugal, to not use as much stuff. For me, it always brings back memories of my grandmother. And there's a big, long story to this, but it's my grandmother's legacy, and it's a big reason why I got started in the whole world of sustainability. So, hi, y'all. I'm Marla. If you are new to this, I am the Green Home Coach, and with me today is Tony the Green Guy. You don't like that name, though.
Well, I don't. I've never really heard you say it until the last time we recorded.
I've been on the bio for a while now.
Well, I don't read the bio, obviously. That we can tell.
You don't read much.
Well, I read a lot.
Not of my stuff.
No, I do not. I'm such a great advocate for the website. I have an excuse, though. I'm in school.
You're in school. Reusing your brain, right?
Exactly. So, well, you know what, though? It's not just your grandmother. I mean, my grandmother was the same way. I'm pretty sure both of our grandparents were children of the Depression era.
Yeah, my grandmother was actually a young woman. She was born in 1909. So she was a young woman during the Depression, and they lived in South Texas in a small town. And if you think back to those times, they had to reuse things because they weren't plentiful.
Forget about even just the Depression. Prior to that, it depended on where you lived.
Yeah.
What kind of a job you had, what kind of a career you had. Were you college educated? And if you were, that was a very small percentage. Or were you barely educated and lived in a small agricultural, community? I mean, back then, that was the big job provider, was the agricultural community.
Yeah.
It's not like today where it's fewer and fewer. So you had more rural communities back then, and you were still subsistent for yourself. You didn't rely on everybody else. You didn't rely on
running to 7-Eleven.
Yeah, going to the store every day. You didn't rely on QT and mobile on the runs and everything else. There wasn't anything such as a convenience store back then.
So today, we're going to talk about this, and we're going to talk about the relationship between how different generations relate with this whole idea of reusing, and how we can take what our grandparents and great-grandparents taught us, that we can learn from. And sometimes ancient wisdom, past history, new history is really insightful. And I had to laugh. So my mom was born during World War II.
Okay.
And she always laughs at me. She sends me all these emails like, what do you mean we're not green? We grew up that way. And what's been interesting is, yeah, you grew up that way, but your generation also brought in mass manufacturing and convenience items and these amazing inventions that have brought, oh my gosh, so much convenience and luxury and ease to our lives for so many of us, not all of us, but many of us. Yet they did grow up living frugally and simply. And if you think what it was like to live in during the Depression years, during the 30s, and then rolling right into World War II, practically, it almost was back to back. And having this huge cause, this huge effort to make everything for the war. And everybody was all in. And they did without, because it was patriotic. It was the movement. It was how everybody contributed. This whole idea of reuse, frugality,
it's been around, and I think for some generations, and I'm guessing here, so we'll see what we debate here. But I think for some generations, this idea of luxury and providing for their family, especially their kids, when they had to do without, is kind of a badge of honor. And now many of us, hopefully most of us, want to make sure there's enough to go around.
Well, I think you hit on a very important point. It's always been the previous generation wants to make sure the next generation in a family, we're going to localize this, is in a better position than they were. I don't know how many times we see it on like construction sites. You talk to people in the trades. Well, I work hard, so my kids don't have to, and they can go to college and work in an office, which amazes me because, okay, you're going to send your kids. Okay, that's great if you're going to pay for it, but if you're going to put them in a debt for the college degree, when they could be in the trades making probably more money, right out of the gate, especially, and have a whole lot more job security. Reality.
You know where I am on that. And anybody that's been listening to us for a while knows that I'm a huge workforce advocate.
But I understand the reasoning. I'm working hard so my kids don't have to. My dad had that mentality of, I went into the service so my kid doesn't have to.
Right.
He served so I didn't have to. I get that. It makes sense. And that's been something I think that has been handed down generation to generation for a very long time. Now you talk about, let's globalize this a little bit more. And we want to use resources wisely to make sure that they're still around for the next generation.
Yep.
So that's the same thing, whether it's natural resources, whether it's timber, whether it's fossil fuels, whether it's water, whether it's land use, whether it's food, right? Doesn't matter what the resource is, you want to use it wisely and smartly so it allows the next generation to continue on living the appropriate lifestyles.
And we have, I think, and folks, I'm bearing my soul a little bit. So I hope you're open to that dialogue. I do feel like some people, some cultures, some organizations, the way they show their wealth and that it's not a hard time anymore is by just consuming and not paying attention to what they may be wasting, to what they may be throwing away. And it's become, even in our general culture in the United States, in some ways, it's become kind of a badge of honor that you don't have to worry about pinching pennies and saving stuff and appearing frugal or being frugal. So the whole idea to me that, reduce, reuse, recycle, reject, or just say no, refuse, is becoming much, much more in vogue, especially the younger you go down in our demographics, because I think the excesses have become somewhat very apparent and slapped us in the face in some cases. But this is the part that's kind of scary to me, it's also playing in this divisiveness that's happening on so many issues.
Okay, that's an interesting point, because I think part of it is, what is the environment you grew up in? So like me, you look at my family history, and I'm just going to talk the immediate family. I'm not worried about, uncles and, aunts and that offshoot. I'm just going to talk about the straight, me, my parents, my grandparents, that train of thought.
Okay.
It's working class family. I am the most educated member of my family, without a doubt. I mean, none of my parents have college educations. My grandparents did not have college education. So while they were more blue collar or public service careers, they also did not have ostentatious tastes.
But did they live comfortably?
They lived comfortably. They did not want for anything.
Yeah.
But because they didn't have to worry about struggling, they were able to budget and be smart about things.
Budget.
Yes. Crazy thought, right?
Yeah.
But they would plan everything. Yes, they went on vacations every year, but they planned. How did they plan? They went off season. They stretched their money. They would spend money on the things that were important to them, but they wouldn't waste money on things.
All about priorities.
Exactly. So
Well,
that's kind of
I have a family with a very, like my grandfather was an anesthesiologist, but my dad chose to be an entrepreneur and was always extremely good at just doing whatever was needed to be done. And when education here got a little crazy, they elected to send us to private schools. And that was hard on them. It was a big sacrifice for them, 3 daughters through private schools. And the tuition now is just mind-boggling. It's become a very nice school. But that, again, it was back to priorities. It was, my parents felt that us having a really good education was the foundation for us being able to do whatever we wanted to do for the rest of our lives. And we've all taken it very different directions, but incredibly grateful for that sacrifice. And yeah, it's definitely different, but I've always kind of credited my grandmother with being the very beginning of how I got into this whole green and sustainability stuff. And it's changed over times. Because she always was talking to us when we were little. She died right before I went to college. But I always remembered her saying, use it up, wear it out, make it do or do without. Y'all have probably heard that before. And that was what I remember. And I don't even know if it's accurate, but that's how I remember my childhood with her. It's that statement. I actually looked it up one day. It's a New England proverb. But I remember as a kid going into her pantry and there'd be rolls of foil and rolls of rubber bands and, big containers of paper clips and nails and, almost today what you would almost call a prepper mentality, I guess. Not quite that extreme, but yes. So some of that's rubbed off on me. I get a takeout container. I'm not a big advocate of plastic, but when I get it, I try to reuse it because it's great to send food home with other people. Plus, it can go in the recycling bin. I don't know. I think it's been 2 years since I bought a box of Ziplocs because I don't use them. But when I get one, I wash it out and reuse it. So I don't need very many. I've got the silicone Ziplocs on my Christmas list. But I'll tell you what I have enjoyed saving a great deal is jars. And glass has gotten a lot harder to recycle in a lot of municipalities. Yeah. So jars are really a good thing. I do them that's actually a mason jar, which are really nice. I don't have a mason jar lid on it. But like when we did the party favors for my daughter's baby shower, we had little jars. I didn't keep one. Isn't that terrible? But we did little jars filled with little pebbles and then succulents. And then she put a little note on it. And I'd been saving, little jars for that party for a while. And so there's, I don't know, there's this whole idea of DIY and craft and reusing stuff, I feel is starting to gain some traction again.
Well, I think it is. And part of it is some of the younger generations, I hear this every day at work, they just don't think they're going to have the opportunities to live the same lifestyle as their parents. Or as I hear from one of my employees who's 33, I'm never going to be able to retire. And this is just their mentality. House.
Are you hearing this too?
Yes. And this is their mentality because they've lived through the Great Recession.
Yeah.
They've seen ups and downs and just their parents have to restart, start over again. It's just, they never seem to gain any traction. Now, I don't necessarily agree or disagree with these sentiments. I think they are very in tune to how their lifestyle is, but there's some commonalities. A lot of them have high college debt.
Yeah.
They have jobs that maybe their degrees aren't that specialized, so they don't have high paying jobs to pay for it. Prices are going up on everything, right? They haven't started to put things, put money aside because they're not budgeting. They're more spending off of whims versus planning. And so there's a lot of things that they could do to maybe ease the financial burden.
All I can think of is there's an app for that.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure there is. There's lots of great apps out there.
There are. But because they're not planning and they're not being careful with what they use, they find themselves a little stressed.
And
Now,
it's not all of them, Tony. We should be fair.
No, it's not.
But there is a generational vibe that I think
Yes.
is out there for sure. And with the pandemic brought, oh my gosh, such craziness to the housing market.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine. Well, honestly, I can't imagine because we'd like to live in a different house and we can't move.
And it's not going to go down at any time.
We get a great price for our house, but then we've got to move somewhere else.
Still got to buy something else.
Right.
And that's going to be inflated.
And it's not worth it to me to move to a neighborhood within 5 miles. So hopefully we'll be able to do some remodeling and this one will be peachy keen.
But what I'm finding is I think more people are becoming in tune to reusing things or holding on to them or just stretching their budgets more because they find themselves in this kind of a situation.
Well,
I mean, to be honest,
you know me, I buy used everything if I can, simply because I feel it's safer than many, like buying furniture that's used. It's already off-gassed. I buy used cars because they depreciate so much the first few months.
I never spend money on a car. To me, it's a tool to get from point A to point B. That's it.
Yeah. And so all of this adds up. And through our personal circumstances, our lifestyles changed pretty radically with Scott's medical issues. And anybody that's listening to this that doesn't know doesn't know about this. My husband had a number of brain surgeries 2 years ago, 2.5 to 2 years ago. It stretched out over a few months, but it changed everything for us. And it's what was kind of interesting about that is that we already had started living a simpler lifestyle. And I was able to help us tuck it in more where we're still living very comfortably, but on not near the resources that we had before. And I mean, not just money, time, energy. And then, of course, we've got too much of other things because we are being frugal and making sure that we're having everything that we might need. So there's a fine line between not collecting everything, but reusing and keeping and being wise about what you do need. This is a great place. One thing that I started seeing crop up a lot during the pandemic, I thought was a brilliant idea, is neighborhood swaps. Yeah. And people would put out on our Facebook page for the neighborhood, hey, I need XYZ piece of lawn equipment, or I need an edger, or can I borrow a trailer? And that's awesome because why go buy something that you're only going to use once or once a year? And so we saw a lot more of that. There's apps for sharing almost everything now, too. I did the car sharing a few months ago with the Turo app.
Yeah, and that's why services like this are starting to pop up with the younger generations.
Yeah, it's not just Airbnb share your house, which has changed so much since it initially came out, but opportunities to share time, to share stuff, to unload it. I mean, look at what Facebook Marketplace has become. It's just become a huge market. Matter of fact, sometimes I get a little frustrated that there's more new stuff in there than there is gently loved.
I'll take your word for it because I don't buy anything.
I don't buy much, but I sold quite a bit.
I don't sell anything. I don't buy anything. And I'm sitting here doing this podcast with my laptop in my dining room because it's really my office. Benefits of being a single person. But the dining room table that it sits on was purchased in the 80s by my mother and father.
There you go.
And I got this when they bought new stuff right after I got out of college in the early 90s. And I've had it ever since. Why?
And it's probably better made than a lot of things
it's
today.
Solid cherry wood.
Yeah.
I mean, one, it has some sentimental value.
Yeah.
Because there's little dings in this from when my parents were in Europe and I had parties at their house. And there's little dings from playing quarters on it that just kind of connect me to the table. But besides that, it's a phenomenal table. It does everything I needed to do. Why do I need a different dining room table?
So as you said that, I'm like looking around my office, and my office has probably the most newest stuff in it of the whole house.
Okay.
Mainly because I needed to figure out a different working configuration and the things that we had didn't work. But that's so funny because although this chair I've had, so my gosh, how long have I had that? I think I've had that since 2006 or 2005. It's gone through 1, 2, 3. This is its third or fourth house, but I love it. It's like one of my favorite reading shirts. So that piece, that piece has stuck around for a while.
It's like, why change? Why get something different if just for the sake of getting something different?
You probably don't have the time, resources, or know-how to research and shop for better options for you and your world. That's why I've done it for you. The Everyday Green Home Shop is my curated collection of better products for a safer, healthier, more comfortable life in your home. Through simple buying choices, you can change your home easily. My book laid out the how to do it. Now, the Everyday Green Home Shop gives you a place to put those ideas into action with your buying choices. I invite you to look through the online shop and choose an item or two to swap for something you usually buy for your home. Once you make a selection, it will take you to one of my trusted affiliate sites or the Amazon site you already use. Super easy. Products on Everyday Green Home range from indoor-outdoor rugs made from recycled plastic to my husband's favorite reusable silicone straw that fits in his pocket. I look for third-party independent green labels or go through a trusted third-party verification process to validate the products I curate for you. Go to everydaygreenhome.com for what you need to create a stylish, safer, and healthier home easily. So let's kind of recap here, and because I know this has been a very conversational sharing and attaching generations. I think that's so important that we understand that we can learn so much from the wisdom of the people that came before us. And I hope our mighty listeners will take advantage of that opportunity. But let's talk about some of the things that are great to reuse inside of a household.
Okay.
So again, we kind of follow the 4 R's. Right. So many of us are used to the 3 R's, but the 4th R is refuse. So if you don't need it, don't take it.
Mm-hmm.
Reduce, use less, just use what you need. Then reuse. Reuse means you're doing something and it's in its original state. So I'm washing out and reusing a plastic container. And last resort is recycle. And recycle is when a material changes form. So think of a newspaper being recycled into writing paper, an aluminum can being recycled into a new aluminum can or an aluminum cup. So that's the difference.
Or something.
Yeah. And sometimes those terms get confused, and that's fine, But this whole idea of refuse is kind of a new one for our generation because there's so much packaging on stuff and we don't oftentimes need it. We went into the store the other day and ended up with 4 items as opposed to 2. And she's trying to put them in a sack. And I'm like, we're fine. We don't need one. We'll carry it out. Yep. Everybody looks at you like you're crazy. Like, oh my gosh, you can walk 20 feet holding 4 items. Like, yeah.
I got that when I was grocery shopping last week and I was buying a bag of oranges. I'm like, do you need this bag? No, you just put it in the cart.
It's a bag.
I can carry it.
Oh, my favorite is when people got like the drinks that have the handles on them and then they want it in a bag. And I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense.
Laundry detergent with the handle.
Yeah.
Don't need it in a bag. It's got a handle.
Okay. So there's lots of things you can refuse. So that's a great place to start. And then reduce. We talk about that all the time. So let's talk about reuse. What kind of things in a household can easily be reused?
Well, I mean, this is a hard one for me because once again, I don't buy a lot
I know
of stuff.
You live a smaller lifestyle as a single person.
I really do. My impact on things is pretty small, except for my Diet Coke and an aluminum can habit. But then again, I have a very full recycling bin of aluminum cans. So.
Full of aluminum cans. One of the easiest materials to recycle, at least, right?
It is. For me, if I do any kind of Tupperware, any kind of, let's say I do buy, I'm just going to use an example. Getting ready for a summer picnic, tub of potato salad. Okay. So for me, I would wash that out and use it for something else. Or you have to understand this house that I live in has been in my family since it was built in World War II. I find things like, I've got a great example. Hold on.
You probably don't have the time, resources, or know-how to research and shop for better options for you and your world. That's why I've done it for you. The Everyday Green Home Shop is my curated collection of better products for a safer, healthier, more comfortable life in your home. Through simple buying choices, you can change your home easily. My book laid out the how to do it. Now, the Everyday Green Home Shop gives you a place to put those ideas into action with your buying choices. I invite you to look through the online shop and choose an item or two to swap for something you usually buy for your home. Once you make a selection, it will take you to one of my trusted affiliate sites or the Amazon site you already use. Super easy. Products on Everyday Green Home range from indoor-outdoor rugs made from recycled plastic to my husband's favorite reusable silicone straw that fits in his pocket. I look for third-party independent green labels or go through a trusted third-party verification process to validate the products I curate for you. Go to everydaygreenhome.com for what you need to create a stylish, safer, and healthier home easily. So while he's grabbing his thing to show us, the other thing that I think a lot of us is carry out food containers.
Cleaning out my freezer last night.
Oh boy.
And this coffee can
Oh my God.
that has been in my freezer holding things probably since the 80s.
Oh
And
my gosh, it's got a handle on the top of it.
no, that's not a handle. That's tape to help keep the top. Oh, no, that is a handle.
It looks like a handle. So y'all that cannot see this, you're hearing this as opposed to watching the video.
Yeah.
He's got a checkerboard coffee can with a lid. Why is it cut? Is it split in half or cut in half on the top?
No, that's because it's so old. It's
split in half.
But what this was used for was to keep nuts, almonds, walnuts for baking, frozen.
So
they've been in there probably since the 80s, and they are 80s or 90s. They're still good. I tried one yesterday. Yeah.
Okay, y'all don't try this at home.
So that's, something that my grandma would have reused. They were big coffee drinkers. I am not.
Yeah.
So they reused the coffee cans for easy storage. I mean, these are solid metal coffee cans. They're going to last forever.
So I think our most unusual reuse is we grew our vegetables this past summer in straw bales. There is a thing called straw bale gardening, which we've been experimenting with. And we collected those straw bales from our neighbors' Halloween and fall decorations when they were finished.
Okay.
So we put out something on our neighborhood Facebook group and said, hey, if you've got a straw bale you want to get rid of, we'd love to have it. I haven't done it yet this year. I need to get it because we need a few more. But now we've finished with them. Some of them will be usable for another season. And then the rest of them that haven't, we'll just use as compost. And so I'm getting 3 lives out of a straw bale.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great example.
And then it's going to go back into the ground and put nutrients back on the ground too. So,
yeah.
So coffee grounds are something, for instance, we toss them in either the compost pile or out in the yard because they're good.
They make great fertilizer.
Yeah, totally. And compost is another one. That's not really reused. That's kind of a recipe.
Well, no, it would be repurpose.
And even, so we have the filters that we use in our HVAC system that are a fabric, not really a fabric, but kind of a fabric-y.
Yeah, more the HEPA ones.
They're not the HEPA ones. Hang on, I'll show you. I moved everything around. Never mind. But they're, I know I've moved everything in my office, but they're kind of almost like a spun. It almost looks like a cushion, a sponge.
Okay.
And there's 3 layers in it. But when we take it out of the returns, we've been using it as weed barrier underneath like our paving stones and stuff. And
okay.
So there's all kinds of things. You want to make sure that they're chemically compatible if you are using something somewhere, or that it won't leach any bad chemicals. So for instance, there's some things I don't use anymore, but I know I've heard of people reusing dryer sheets, although I quit using dryer sheets years and years ago because I decided I didn't want little pieces of chemicals and other things on my clothes.
Sure.
But if you are still using dryer sheets, they make like great dust rags after you've dried your clothes with them. So there's all kinds of ways. There's great websites online about how to reuse things. The one thing to watch out for, folks, is just if you've got two different materials, check their compatibility first, because sometimes they don't agree and you don't want to have a science experiment on your hands.
Yeah, I was going to say, you never know what's going to react with each other, especially if there's chemicals in there.
Yeah. Holiday time, a lot of people reuse stuff for crafts to make Christmas presents, other holiday presents. And I was going to show you. So sometimes I will be even, this one's not it, but I have been known to take gift cards or holiday cards or birthday cards. And if I really like it, I'll save the front and make it a postcard.
Oh, there you go. That's pretty good.
Or I've even made a couple of them art. But anyway, there's lots of ways to reuse. I'm so grateful that my grandmother instilled in me a sense of using what we needed. And even though we kind of laugh at some of her stories and the Depression era mentality, it taught us a lot of really great things. And she had a good life, and I hope left a very good legacy with her granddaughters.
Oh, and it was always about stretching the budget and making do with what you had.
And more importantly, making do with what you had because it was what you need.
Yeah.
And then allows you to have some space for the things that you want. But having everything we want all the time makes it, I don't know. I'm getting preachy here, but Well,
I was going to say, we didn't really talk about that, the difference between needs and wants. And if you just focus on what you need, then sometimes when you splurge and buy that thing you want, it feels even that much more special.
Yeah, well, we could do a whole podcast on delayed gratification, but we won't go there.
Yes, we could. Probably more than a podcast.
Well, yeah, we are starting to wrap up our year, which is crazy. I cannot figure out where 2021 is going so fast, but a lot of good things have happened in this year, even though there's been a lot of crazy things happening. And hopefully, Tony, we'll get to record face-to-face before too long. And that is not pandemic related, y'all. That's just because we're in two different cities.
Right. I mean, we've already recorded face-to-face in the studio since the pandemic has started. You know, it's not that big of a deal. It's just more, we're in the same time zone, just in two different states. Well,
I'm hoping we'll get to drive through and stay a few days before too long. So maybe you guys will get a live studio version of us soon. So you never know.
They are the best version.
I know. We got a couple of good episodes to wrap up the year. And one of them is going to be on Smart Home Update, y'all. And Tony is the man when it comes to smart homes. So you are definitely going to want to listen into that one. I'm not sure exactly when it's going out, sometime in December. So December of 2021, depending when you're listening to this. So.
I try and do what I can with the topic.
I do appreciate it. Well, everyone, you have an amazing, great day. If you have an amazing way you're reusing stuff, please let us know. Put it in the comments. You can DM me on Instagram, Facebook. It's just Green Home Coach. Tony stays kind of anonymous, but I can always get messages to him through Green Home Coach too. That didn't come out right.
I'm in the shadows.
You are in the shadows.
Marla doesn't like me to interact with people because you just never know what's coming out of my mouth.
This is true. Well, I appreciate the legacy that my grandmother has left with me and the legacy that your grandparents and family have left with you. And I hope our listeners will be able to find a piece of a legacy or a new tradition that they can build off reusing and using what you need.
I hope so too.
Okay, y'all. Remember, waste not, want not. Ha ha. Signing off. See you next time. Okay, y'all. We got talking after we turned you all off of the recording. And there's something else that I wanted to leave you with as a PS. I think a lot of the reason that a lot of our attitudes about reuse have changed is because our packaging materials have changed. And we were talking about our grandparents and how they used old coffee cans and old cigar boxes in like their workshops and to store stuff. And now everything's in one-time use plastic, or not everything, but a lot of it. So eliminating whatever we don't need of that and then reusing what we can is a way to tackle both at the same time. What do you think, Tony?
That's a good point, because you used to be able to buy something and that container had a second life just because it was durable. It was going to last.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. My grandmother made clothes out of like the flour sack. I mean, that was really a thing, folks. They really did make clothes out of sacks used to transport flour and sugar because they didn't have access to other fabric. Now it'd probably be vogue, right?
And back then it was so strong.
Well, right. And it would last a long time. But it's, anyway, this thought of how packaging has changed over the years, we felt as we were talking offline, really has influenced what we can and what we see possibilities in reusing. So keep that in mind when you're shopping for stuff. How do you keep it basic and how do you keep it to the stuff that you can reuse or responsibly get rid of? So,
yeah.
Okay, this time we'll really let you go. If we have any more great thoughts, I'll try to put it in the show notes.
There you go.
Okay, signing off again.
That wraps this episode of the Everyday Green Home Podcast. Get the show notes with all the resources mentioned in this episode. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode. Want more? Join the Love Your Everyday Green Home private Facebook group for more resources and behind-the-scenes insights. And remember that living a little better and greener is easier than you think.